As we prepare to hear Erica May's story, it's important to reiterate what was discussed in our first episode a couple weeks ago. Black folks are experiencing a higher rate of COVID deaths than white folks. Today, the LA Times editorial board noted, quote, "The data on COVID-19 cases and deaths suggests that our collective response to the pandemic has been as fundamentally, if unconsciously, racist as the policing tactics that led to the deaths of Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and far too many other Black Americans." So keeping this in mind, let's watch and listen to Erica May's story.
My name is Erica May. I am 47 years old. I live in Violet, Louisiana. And my occupation is I'm an education consultant. I have my own consulting business called Consult Logics. I train adult education providers and everything education. I first started having symptoms on March the 10th. It started out with fevers and chills towards the later part of the night. So that morning, the next morning, I called to set an appointment at this nearby clinic. The nurse practitioner at the time, she was going back and forth with whether she should test me for COVID because it was so new. And while she and I were going back and forth, I got her to, I decided, hey, please test me, go on and test me. And so when I left there, before I left there, she diagnosed me with an upper respiratory infection / cold. And so I was like, are you going to give me some medicine? You're going to give me something for infection or anything? So she did tell me to go to the emergency room if I still have fever in the next 48 hours after I left there. And so I certainly did. I still had fever. I still had the chills. I couldn't eat. I was getting weaker and weaker. On March the 15th, I went in through the emergency room. And at this point, I still had fever. My lower back was hurting and everything. And let me just say also that I had gotten my results back from that COVID test and it came back negative. So this is what started making me ask about other things that could have been going on in my body. So my lower back was hurting, and I asked them to test me for urinary tract infection. It came back negative, and I also asked them to take a chest x-ray because I couldn't lay on my right or my left side without coughing profusely. Let me just say, I felt like, why am I leading what's happening here today? Why, after I told you what was going on with me, you didn't approach me with, let's do this, let's do that? I mean, you'll hear this recurring theme in my story is that I literally had to advocate for myself from beginning to end. I wasn't going to allow them to send me home without me knowing, something like try this or try that. 2 days later, I have a telehealth follow-up. And the doctor who called me was so rude. So we're talking about what's going on with me at that time. And I asked him, I said, can you please prescribe something for my coughing? Because at this point, I'm coughing really bad, It seemed like you called with nothing. Like, why did you pick up the phone to call me? I got a bill for that call where I practically got nothing from this doctor. I was right back in the hospital on the 19th. My symptoms were progressively getting worse. And then things were adding on. The symptoms were adding on. And so that's when they checked me and they did another COVID test. They drew blood. The only way I learned about those blood tests is because I went into my notes. You know how they send you, so the hospital will send you something like access to your medical records and stuff like that and your visits. That's how I learned a lot about what was going on with me, because nobody was telling me all of this stuff. It's because I was asking questions. They doctored me up and they discharged me knowing that I had developed pneumonia at this point. They didn't give me any medicine for it. They let me leave the hospital. I'm feeling so bad. I'm so weak. I can't eat. I'm coughing all over the place. And they sent me home knowing that I had pneumonia. So I made it through the night. On the 20th, this was the day. This is when I felt a crushing pain in my chest. I could not breathe, ladies. I couldn't breathe. Now, because they had messed up so many times with me, they dropped the ball. I had asked my husband to bring me to an urgent care. And I told the lady when I walked through the door, I said, ma'am, if y'all send me home today, I am going to die. I said, I cannot breathe. And they sent me to the back. I was back there for about an hour before somebody came to see about me. By the way, guys, I could barely walk this day. I wobbled into the hospital. I could barely walk. I got up off of the bed and I stuck my head out and I said, when is somebody going to check on me? And the guy told me, he said they had a lot of patients and all of this kind of stuff. And I'm like, but sir, I can't breathe. So 15 minutes after that, that's when somebody finally came, when the admitting doctor came in. And the way he was looking it just was dreadful. I got this sense of this lady isn't gonna make it. So when he left out of that room, I was like, Lord, I don't know what else to do but praise you. I started quoting scripture and thanking God for my life. But before that, I did ask God to take my life, to be honest with you, because I had suffered so much. And then on that day, that was March 20th, that was my child's birthday. And I said, Lord, I can't die on my child's birthday. I don't want her to remember me being dead every year on March 20th. And I started praising God because I didn't know what else to do. I was like, this is it. Lord, I need you. And then I just started saying, I will live and not die. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. And I'm like, Lord, you didn't bring me this far to leave me. And I just was saying all these things, and I'm sorry, I'm getting a little sad about it. And then they came in and they admitted me. And I was so grateful because I was just like, I'm begging you all not to send me home, because if I go home, I am going to die. I told them I can't care for myself. Y'all keep sending me home. And I don't have the strength to care for myself. At that point, I had self-isolated myself from my family because I didn't want to get them sick. My husband is a dialysis patient. I didn't want to get him sick. My daughter suffers with asthma. So thank God we have an upstairs and downstairs, and I stayed upstairs for the most part. But I still was around them, every now and then, because initially they gave me that they gave me a negative result.
In the midst of your just desire and just desperation for survival, did you even realize that you were actually advocating for yourself?
No, I didn't, until I got home. I started thinking about all of the things that I was asking for that nobody was asking me. Another thing I advocated for while I was in the hospital is I couldn't eat the food that they were giving me. So I asked for Boost, the little drink that's high in calories or whatever, just so that I can have something that resembled food, some nourishment in my body. But why am I asking you and you're not offering it to me? I just felt like there was a level of incompetence that is just unbelievable. I don't know if people were just that stressed out, or I don't know where that came from. But if I go to a hospital where there are professionals, I expect you to take care of me and not me take care of myself while I'm there. I understand that everything was very new. I'm not mad that people didn't know what they were doing. I understand. Mm-hmm. I'm empathetic to that. But the thing that I wasn't empathetic to, and I'm not still, is just that the hospital dropped the ball with me in the beginning, and that could have been the end for me. because of how you handle my situation and my hospital visits. When I came home, of course, I had to isolate for 14 days. Where is the information on how to transition from isolation to being back with your family? I was afraid to come back to them. I was saying, I don't think I should go back downstairs until I have another test done. Well, at this time, they weren't giving you another test. They were saying, no, we're not going to retest you. I called my regular doctor because I was like, I'm calling you because it's nearing the time for me to come out of isolation. What do I do?
Erica, how did that experience make you feel, having to go back to the hospital 3 days? What do you think and feel about that?
I was so sick. I wasn't angry because I was so sick. I couldn't be nothing but sick. You understand what I'm saying? But after the fact, when I think about it, when I reflect on it, it makes me very angry. What were they saying to the medical professionals in their morning meetings? I don't know how they arrived there. We're just going to send everybody home. I had insurance. Why do you keep sending me home and you're not caring for me? I'm telling you, I'm too weak to care for myself at home. I thank God that I finally got admitted. I prayed with some of the nurses. One nurse in particular, she was so frustrated. She was just really frustrated. And I told her, and I could barely talk at this time. I said, nurse, I need you. I said, I cannot have y'all falling apart at this hospital. Mm-hmm. I said, and me in particular, I need you.
When did you get your results about COVID?
I'm glad you asked that. I asked about my results at COVID. Nobody just gave them to me. I was there 3 days. That's when the doctor finally came in that was making the rounds. And I asked him, actually before he came in there, I got a phone call. And they told me that I tested negative for COVID. The doctor came in there maybe 45 minutes after I had gotten that call, and I asked him what were my results. He said they were positive. How am I getting a negative result and a positive result in the same day? Which is horrible for a patient to go through.
And did they sent you home with oxygen, right?
They did, because I asked.
Because you asked?
I did, yep.
Why did you ask?
Because I still couldn't breathe without it. And so when the doctor was discharging me, I asked him, I said, are you going to send me home with oxygen? And he was like, well, we can order a test. And if you fail the test, then you'll go home with oxygen. And lo and behold, I failed the test. The oxygen dropped down to 80 something. My oxygen levels for me just sitting on a sofa. I wasn't doing anything. And my oxygen levels just dropped. So yeah, I asked about that. And I truly believe in my heart of hearts, had I not asked about that oxygen, I would have gone home without oxygen.
Erica, what is one thing, or what are some things that you will tell to patients, to people who are going to the hospital? What would you tell them based on your experiences?
If you are feeling worse than they think you are, compel them to keep you in the hospital. The main people that I would want to say something to are people who don't have insurance, because they don't feel like they have a leg in this race to begin with if they don't have insurance. They are not going to the hospitals. They're not getting checked. They don't know that the information isn't widely available, that they have to treat you. And that Medicaid will pay for your stay right now. So getting that information out to people and, being able to express what your body is going through, what's happening with you at this moment, that's very important. And just because, they're the authority or whatever, they could be wrong. I went from having pneumonia in one lung to having it all over. It changes like that. So it's not really safe for people to go home.
What would you say to doctors or nurses or triage nurses or people in the medical field who are, or ambulance drivers, the EMT? What would you say to them?
First, I want to thank them for even putting themselves on the line for us. But take your time with your patients and do the right thing by your patients. Don't treat them like, oh, this is another person that's here and we're checking off this list. If you have diabetes, if you have this, if you have that, then we might not. Don't go in with your biases about what you think might happen to somebody. Treat everybody. Treat us all. Take care of yourself so that you can take care of us, but don't push people out of the hospitals too fast. I know they're overworked. My God, I know. I understand that. But in your spare time, if you have spare time, look into this virus and come up with solutions. What from ambulance owner, company owner to ambulance company owner, what are the best practices? What's working for you? Let's pool that information together so that we can help everybody. Help everybody. Don't make a decision in your mind, oh, they're just gonna die anyway. We're human beings. We need the help. We need y'all to make sound decisions.
Hi, Erica. I'd also like to ask you one last question. So there's countless amounts of research on just the role and the significance of faith, spirituality, and God in the African American community. I have heard you make so many references to just your faith and your spirituality while you were sick, while you're, even now still in recovery. Will you please just reiterate the importance of your faith and your spirituality during this very traumatic experience?
You're talking about fighting the enemy that we can't see. You got to have faith over that kind of stuff. You have to. That's the only way that I can guard my heart and guard my mind, is to stay focused on God. God put the doctors here, God put the nurses here to help us, but ultimately we need to go to Him and pray for them to have the solutions for us. You have to be flexible in this time, because our lives will never go back to the same. I don't care how many restaurants open. I don't care how many malls open. I don't care how many beaches open. Our lives will never go back to the way it was. And shame on us if we allow it to. We were living our lives to gain things, stressed out on our jobs and different things like that because we want a bigger house and we want this. Girl, when I tell y'all, I had $200. All I could do is laugh at myself because I had $200 in the bank. I said, if they want the car, take it. I'm at peace in my life with how things are going. All I have is what I need, and that's all I need.
Her story was just so powerful. The way that she advocated for herself, the way that she asked for specific things. Those are the things that we need to teach people to ask for. Have you done a CT scan? What does it say? She knew what to ask for. And, Bianca and I are just wondering, were you in the healthcare field? How did you know? She said it's common sense, but it's not common sense. They sent her home to a husband who is on dialysis, and she's positive for COVID-19. If she did not make them wear those masks, he could have gotten infected. Her daughter could have gotten infected. We really got to find a way to get people who are positive to stay somewhere else and not home. I don't know what it's going to take for the US to wake up, for us to really put our hats on and start working together. I feel like everyone's racing towards a vaccine, racing towards testing, racing towards all these things, but we're missing what's right in front of us, which is taking care of those who are currently sick to help them survive.
Erica literally is a mother, a wife, a sister, a daughter, an entrepreneur who we almost lost. Her story, she presents in a way to where she with ease was able to identify several problems in the experience that she had, the healthcare system that she encountered, but she also presents with solutions. And I think that that's the thing that will lend itself to Erica having a platform to help other women. She never gave up. She talks about the strength that she got from just her faith, her belief, even when looking in the eyes of a healthcare professional who had given up on her. That is powerful. And there's no doubt in my mind that the reason she's still here is not because of the discrepancy in tests, having received some negatives and some positives, not in the final decision they made to finally admit her, but in her faith, just how strong she is. I have no concerns about her mental health or whether or not she'll be able to sustain, because I do know that there may be some residual, but she's so mentally strong that I think she will find a way to serve others, share her story, and empower others to where it'll be fulfilling for her, and that will just encourage her to keep going. If anything, I don't see myself as a helper in her situation, but more so a partner. She's definitely someone I'd like to speak with and partner with on just how do we make sure other women who look like us are just very, very knowledgeable and feel comfortable advocating for themselves.
This story was just, riveting, right? This story perfectly illustrates the ways we can self-advocate, how faith in dealing with an enemy you cannot see is the light that leads the way, and that the real results of never giving up. We see that in Erica's story. So we want to sincerely thank Erica for sharing her moving and very powerful story. She's shown courage and resilience, intelligence, and empathy for those who were supposed to care for her. We are happy her family has remained safe and that Erica has recovered.